AI. So where are we?
Where are we? Good question.
Just looking at the action items for last week. Edwin to meet with the board to discuss focusing on the holistic empathy movement. We just didn't even get to that. Edwin to continue reaching out to experts like Kevin Waldman, Amber, and Claire York. Oh, Claire sent me her book. She has a book
Oh,
on empathy and leadership. I don't know if you saw her bio and stuff. So anyway, I'm going to
yeah.
be once I read that, probably take a month or so. Going to interview her, but run by the. She's using the affective cognitive model. So whenever I interview these people, I'm going to kind of challenge them on it. And I did have the discussion with Amber, and then Kevin I meet after this afternoon. Actually, it's at 12 o'clock Pacific.
Oh, great.
In about 2 hours, he had something he was all excited about. He wanted to follow up on this discussion, so
Hmm.
uh,
So he reached out to you to
he was
follow up.
yeah.
Well,
And
that's
I'd like to
exciting.
do an empathy circle with him too. I think he's getting interested in empathy. So anyway, I'm not really sure. Jody to look into criticisms of empathy and how they fit into the drama triangle.
Hmm. Yeah, I did not do that.
Okay.
I should write that. Um, Keep talking, but I'm going to write it on my whiteboard.
Okay.
So I actually
Yeah,
wrote
that
it.
was just to come up, just to be thinking about it, to find one criticism, just to be thinking about how to do it. And then Jody to connect with Daryl Cameron and David Wingate regarding empathic AI research.
Okay. Um, yeah, I can do that. Remind me what the purpose was for reaching out. Is it you wanted to create a platform that could help facilitate empathy circles? Is that right?
Yeah, how could empathy circles, how could AI, kind of support empathy circles?
Okay.
I mean,
Let
right
me
now I
write
do a
that.
lot of research with AI, so that's one thing, but within the circle itself.
Okay. Yeah, I will
Then
reach
the
out to both of them.
and the other, this was AI's action list that it gave us. So uh,
So look at it helping us
there
already.
it is. So I just copied last week's action list to this week's, and then Jody to be added to Empathy Super Friends. I don't know if you heard from Maria, but I did send you that. Okay.
No, I did not, but I did see your email.
All right.
Um, so is that something that I should follow up on, do you think?
No, I think I just to let you just were interested in connecting with more people in the empathy space. So this is a group, both Maria and um, Volpe. What's his? Yeah, the can't remember his first name right now. But both of them have written books on empathy, and they started a group of sort of practitioners, especially in the business world, who are promoting empathy, have workshops and things like that. So
Yeah, I definitely want to
and
get connected. So I
Maria just
will.
brought out a new book, has a new book, and I asked for a review copy. So
Oh, okay. That was the one that I saw that you had asked for the review copy of, not the other one that you were talking about earlier.
both.
Okay.
Claire York has a new book out too. Comes out
Okay.
next month.
Yeah, all I was saying was that I thought that that's the one that I had seen that you had emailed about, but it
Mm-hmm.
was actually Maria that I had seen
Mm-hmm.
that about.
So beyond that,
Okay.
I've just been chipping away. Haven't been too productive, but I've been posting the Empathy Summit post. I don't know if you're on LinkedIn. I tag you, so just
Yeah, I've seen that I've been tagged a million times. It's been fun.
well, every time there's one of the posts, there's like 6, 7 video clips, from the summit. I post it and I tag the participants as well as the speakers, and then the next summit speakers too. And you're speaking, I think, at the next two. So,
Mhm. Well, I know that one in October.
mhm.
Is there one after that as well?
There's one in November. I think you'd
Oh,
said you
okay.
were interested in that one
You're
too.
right. You're right. What is the topic for that one? So the
The
one in
empathy circle.
October. Okay, so the one in October is the one that's about the movement. The
Hmm.
empathy circle is what is being talked about in November.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the date on
And
that one?
let's see.
Let me just make sure I have it in my calendar.
Yeah. So here's the summit page. You can review in general. It's November 8th, Saturday, November 8th. I think you're,
Okay.
let me see.
Okay. I need to put that in.
Philosophy, psychology, and the empathy circle practice is what I had you down for.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah. And that was the other part in the abstract. So you had everything.
Okay. I just had not put it in my calendar, so it was gone from my memory. Okay.
Yeah, it was a really good summit, the last one. Really.
Awesome.
Did
Yeah,
you
if I have
see?
some time, I'll go through and look at some of those clips that you posted.
Yeah, the one by Alyssa. It was really just, it tells her personal experience.
Hmm.
Let me give you the link to that because I thought it was just one of the.
Is she the one that was a student and
Mhm.
participated in one and it really changed her life?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I actually watched some of that one.
Okay. Yeah. It just shows the power of it. What I really appreciate about that is because when I do the empathy circle, I sort of extrapolate the mindset that I experience. And a lot of people don't. They just see the experience itself. And, Alyssa just, she could she extrapolated the experience and
Mhm.
just could see how it could affect all parts of her life. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great. That's pretty great. Um, so this past week, I've been continuing to work on my project that's looking at a lot of the philosophy, social sciences, bringing different definitions together that overlap with each other. So, trying to understand more of when we're empathizing with another person, what part of them are we empathizing with? So, I know I mentioned that a little bit. So, I've been going deeper into that. So, I've been really busy
Mhm.
with that project. Um, and
You've
if
been
you
kind of
want to,
laying out the different parts of what is a person. So what are their different components, parts?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, how much of that
What's
did
the
I share with
center?
you?
What's the core of a person?
Yeah, so I shared with you like a little model that I created.
Yeah, you
Okay.
had that sort of a circle,
Yeah.
and then there was different.
Oh yeah. And so I have, and I just showed it to you on my phone, right? Or did I
I'm
show
not
you one that
sure.
was actually a screen share?
Oh, you want to let me give you co-host if you want to share. Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if I just show you this. Hang on. It is going to take me a minute to find it because I think I closed everything down. Because I get to this point where I have 75,000 tabs open and I have to start
Mm-hmm.
closing things.
Yeah. Feel remiss if you have to close one.
I know it feels like you're letting a part of your self die. Okay, let's see. So I started out by kind of looking at the definition of empathy, but then also it requires an understanding of the self. So what is the self? Like if we're talking about including the other in the self, right? Like with the scale that is often used with the circles, what does that even mean, right? So there's a lot of social psychology and other branches of psychology have deeply studied what the self is. And so there are a lot of different definitions. The ones that are kind of the most influential are William James in 1890. He talked about it comprising the material part of the self, so like your actual physical body and the material possessions that you have, so your home, your clothing, whatever the material stuff is that you have. And then the social, which would be others' perceptions of the self, but then also and also like group memberships, relationships, interactions with other people. And then the spiritual is what happens inside the mind of the individual. So he says that those are the three different components of the self. And then let's see, Carl Rogers went on to say that it is an organized, consistent set of perceptions and beliefs about oneself, which I think that's an interesting one. I was talking with somebody yesterday about it, how if we're saying that the self is made up of our thought patterns, then that would mean that if you have maladaptive thought patterns, then that defines you. So I wonder if in recent decades, since this was in 1951 that he said that, I would wonder if, with the advent of like cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that, where we're trying to challenge those maladaptive thought patterns and kind of introduce a different way of thinking about something, if maybe we would redefine the self accordingly. So if it's a consistent set of perceptions and beliefs, if we can change those things, does the self actually change? So that's something to just think about as well. And then
Another
more
thing,
recently,
just quick comment on that. I had in that empathic and unappreciated way of being. He mentions cognitive behavioral therapy. He says he's concerned about it because it's a technical. He felt it was sort of authoritarian approach. So I just thought that
oh,
was
interesting.
because he's what he liked about empathy. He saw it as very democratic because the power is in the person to change, whereas cognitive behavioral therapy, he says, well, society likes it. The technical society likes it because they like a method that you can control. You're using that process. The therapist or others are in control to control the person, the direction. And
That's
I think
interesting.
he was skeptical about that because he's, very much into the giving space for the person to change themselves, which he felt was more democratic. So,
Yeah, I like that. And it's more empathetic as well.
mhm.
Because if you come into it with an authoritarian mindset, you're not giving space for empathy. Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to read some more of his writings on that to see if I can get more of a cohesive understanding of how that fits together. Are you familiar with Baumeister?
No.
He's a preeminent social psychologist, and his work on the self has really been influential. And this, I really like this part of this definition that he has, that it's not a passive entity that things happen to, but also an agentic individual, right? So an active agent. And I think that a lot of the criticisms of empathy kind of fall into the passive side of it, where it's just a reaction to things that happen around you, right?
Mhm.
And so if we're viewing the self as more agentic,
And what does
uh,
agentic mean?
uh, that's a good question. How would I define it? Having the ability to make choices and be
Okay.
proactive.
Hmm.
So I want to read more. Actually, right before our meeting, I was reading some of his stuff, trying to get a deeper understanding of his view of the self as this agent, as a proactive being. And I would think that if we understand more about the self as proactive rather than reactive, and yes, there is going to be some reactivity, but I think that the empathy research has been so focused on reactivity
Hmm.
that I don't think it's really that helpful, because it's only showing one side of this, where it's kind of, I mean, it puts you as the empathizer into a victim mindset, right? If you think of it that way, where it's like, I can't control it. Like these emotions are all around me.
Oh, right.
Everybody else's views are just kind of bombarding me and I have no control over it. So
That's the
empathy,
affective empathy,
yeah.
in a sense that there's two. Seems are you? I'm seeing sort of two general phenomenon under the affective empathy term. One is what you're talking about, the just reactive, all the different things you're doing to react. And then the other is sort of the process of sensing into someone's feelings. I'm just wondering if that's sort of how you see it, how that term, what that term holds.
Um, I think I like to think of it as a process more than a reaction. I was looking at one of the empathy measures yesterday. I actually may want to pull this up so we can look at it together. It's the Toronto empathy measure. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, but
Yeah.
um, I was looking through every item on the scale and it was all affective. Like every single one of them was affective empathy, which I found very interesting. Not all of them were like emotion contagion, but some of them were reactions to other people's um, emotions. So, for example, when I see other people crying, I get frustrated. So that's not taking on their emotion, but it is still an emotional process where you're reacting to somebody else's emotions. And so I actually want to just go up here and show you. Um, this is where I'm at with my definition. Let's see. Okay, and I want to run this by you, see what you think of it, and just pick it apart and like put it back together and see if we've like covered all of our bases with this.
Okay.
We propose that empathy is a process. So first of all, process. I like the term process because I do think that it is it's an active process that you're entering into. A process of engaging with other beings. So that could be a human being or a non-human being. So it could be like an animal or even an imagined other toward the goals of either understanding or connecting or helping. So you can have one goal or the other, but I don't think that empathy in and of itself is the goal. The reason that you enter into empathy as a volitional agent, right? Like as you're like choosing to do it, is toward one of these goals. And this may or may not involve the understanding and sharing of emotional experiences. So I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, two things before, you're just talking about measurements. I had put together a list of measurements here over the years, and so just wanted to give you that. Uh, so let's see. Yeah, I've been. It's like the empathy is a process. It seems like it's both a process and a state of being. That it, and Rogers called it empathic and unappreciated way of being. So I think it is a process. It's a process of sensing into someone else, but there's also a being, a quality of being to that process. So
Could you give me like a real world example of how that actually manifests? Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around what that means
yeah,
rather than
so
just
we're
process
in an
of being.
empathy circle, and I'm listening to you, and uh, there's a quality when I listen to you, reflect back. There's a felt experience. I'm setting, aside any judgments. I'm bringing my full presence, to listen to you. That there is a quality of being that happens. Like I can feel, for me, there's a gentleness that happens. I can feel a gentleness. I can feel a sort of a spaciousness.
Hmm.
For me, it's like a dark space. It's like a soft, fluffy, dark, colored dark space, but it's not like a a dark space in the sense of being negative. It's more like a warm uh, space that is, and I'm sure probably other people maybe have a different color for it, but
Well, I'm curious, is it dark because it's like just open and empty? Just like
yeah,
red
it's kind of like
that
space. It's like space, outer space is kind of dark,
mhm.
So it's a bit more like outer space sort of dark. It's like, it can be very beautiful. Well, within that space, when I things can emerge that are very beautiful
Hmm.
or very my own feelings of joy come up. Let's say, oh, that's a really interesting insight that, or oh, this is what that person is experiencing, and it's sort of an enriching. It's like it's more like a fruit bowl, in the sense, or flowers, right? It has sort of a positive, beautiful sort of a quality to it. So
Okay, and you said that Rogers talks about it that way.
he doesn't talk about it that way, but he has his. Do you have a link to that paper, empathic and unappreciated way of being?
Is that something that you have sent to me?
Um,
Or let's see.
yeah, it's actually, I have a link to it in our defining empathy. Uh,
What's the title of it again? Sorry.
Empathy and unappreciated way of being.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that some more.
So there's the link to the.
Okay, thank you.
So he says, in spite of all that has been said and written on this topic, it is a way of being that is rarely seen in full bloom in a relationship. So he, I don't recall him sort of outlining the way of being, but he also has a book on being.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these things when we get into beingness, I mean, this is what my whole paper is about. It just becomes so nebulous.
Mhm.
And so that's why I asked for a concrete example of how that feels and what it looks like for you. So I feel like I understand it a little bit better, but I feel like I need to dig deeper into that to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah, it would be like if I was just being very judgmental, the critical or trying to dominate in the circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It affects the quality of who I am, right? It's like it's a felt experience. It's the felt experience. That's the other part of the is in terms of definitions. Gene Genlin would be someone to look into as well, since he was a philosopher as well as had studied the psychology with Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a bit of a philosophical mindset, and he's going to bring in the felt experience aspect of it. And as we've talked about, that he's into like, what's your felt experience, and what's sort of at the edge of your felt experience in terms of who we are, that that subconscious or that quality of new things arise out of us, right? A new thought arises, and it's like, or there's a thought you just kind of at the edge of, oh, there's something there, I'm not quite sure what it is, and you can sort of sense it, and you spend enough time with it, and it comes into your awareness. So in terms of your sense of who you are, that that void, not the void, that where these things are sort of emerging from, that come into your consciousness, that would be part of who you are too. I don't know if philosophers have, if I written about that, you know.
Yeah, I really want to see how that maps onto my model. Can I share my screen again? Would that be okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I want to think about that. You called it like a horizon, right?
Uh-huh.
At the horizon of your consciousness. And I
Just a
know,
metaphor. Uh-huh.
actually, and now I'm seeing that I didn't put it in here, but that is a term that came up in the philosophical approach to beingness, I guess you could
Mhm.
say. Um, and so I wanted to show you this. I think that the horizon is the way that I understand it is understanding that that excuse me, within the individual, like we spend a lot of our time here and we don't realize that there is all of this underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I'm organizing this is maybe at the horizon, it's right here. So these things are more subconscious, maybe, where
Mm-hmm.
you're not consciously consistently thinking about them. You're only focusing on the things that are out here, but these are only out here because of all the stuff that's underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
and also because of all the stuff that's outside of it.
Yeah,
So
and
I
then
need
you've
to,
got Jung too. Jung was all into the right, the what's like all these archetypes, these energies, it's almost like energies, right, that come intergenerational energies that we've picked up, right? When we're kids, we just pick them up subtly. We don't even, we just pick up the emotional quality of them into ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, and so we don't even see where a lot of this is coming from. Heidegger is a philosopher who talks about Dasein, which is
Mm-hmm.
a term. It's German, and it means basically like being there, like being in the world. Um, and so the way that he talks about it is you can't have any of the core of the self without everything that's outside the self as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you pick it, like you were saying, you pick it up um, from your parents, from those around you. Are you saying that it even goes back into like genetic factors as well?
But I was just seeing some things from Carl Jung, and he's saying it's sort of in the ethers. It's in the cultural, the felt experience, maybe in the ethers of the culture,
Hmm.
and even in your family. Just if you so-called, like, say, trauma, or it could be something positive, that it just
Keep talking. I'm going
passes.
to grab something.
Yeah, it just passes into you.
Okay, I'm going to add Jung to my research on this. Yeah, because I hadn't added him in yet to the way that I'm looking at this.
Well, the
Um,
thing is like when we're empathizing, I think what you're looking at is who the person who's there, or being. What are you sort of sensing into, and what's
yeah,
the landscape of this being, and how do you sort of differentiate different qualities of their landscape? Let's say.
and when we're talking about just affective empathy, we're just talking about emotions, and I actually don't even know, based on the research that I've done so far, where I would put empathy, or sorry, where I would put emotions
Mm-hmm.
on this, because what I've read about it is that if you have an opinion about something, it's really not there's not a lot of emotion attached to it. But once you get into these deeper levels, if it's a conviction or part of your identity, you're going to be more emotionally attached to that. And so if I am sensing into somebody else's lived experience and I'm sensing their emotion that's attached to it, I would think that what I'm getting into is some of these deeper levels
Mm-hmm.
of the person. However, sometimes the person experiences emotions on a surface level and they're not consciously able to make the connection about why they're feeling that emotion, like what is bringing that emotion on. So in emotional intelligence books, they talk about emotions as what's the term they use for it? Messengers. They talk about it as a messenger, as some like unmet need or
Right.
something that's important to you. And your job at that point is to try and dig in deeper and understand what it is that the emotion is trying to tell you. So it kind of seems like emotion kind of it's attached to the more inner parts of the self, but then it manifests on the surface level.
Yeah. Are you familiar with what was it, the book Descartes' Error? What the heck is his name? The guy that wrote that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I haven't read it though.
It's he's make you know it he is making the case that reason is based on emotion
Mm.
underneath, so that yeah, it's the question is, yeah, is what is reason, what is feeling, right? Like there's this notion of like pure reason, and then versus the um uh yeah, who would say that it's, they want to get rid of emotion, just, but it's like the it's the relationship between reason and feeling, right, that we're trying to kind of get into. And he's just making the point that you can't, without the felt experience, you can't make reasonable, you can't make reasonable, you can't use reason effectively. And
Mm-hmm.
he has the experience that people whose certain parts of their brains are sort of damaged, where they can't access the felt experience, that they can't make decisions because they don't know what's salient, what's important or not, because it's the felt experience. So what I can say for myself, that I kind of like the Gene Gendlin approach, where you just stay with the felt experience. It's kind of what we did when we were, with Gregory. Just you and I were kind of talking about the felt experience that we had. That you can experience things just from that realm. Like, oh, what am I feeling in the moment, and be exploring the landscape of that felt experience. So,
It is really interesting to be more present with it. And actually, to kind of build on that, I started a new therapist this past week. And he said, rather than just being present with it, this week, what he wanted me to do was like actively go out and seek it. So, for example, I know I've told you about my like existential panic attacks that I have in the middle of the night. And he was like, when those come on, your job this week is to try and make it the worst one possible. I
mm-hmm.
was like, that sounds terrible. And I actually did that last night because I did have an attack come on. Um, and so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try and do this. And my thought process was, okay, I can feel it. It's coming. Like, let's see if I can just really relish every single part of this terror that I'm going to feel. I know it's coming. As of course, when the wave comes over me, it's still not pleasant, but I'm more in a role of proactive rather
Mm-hmm.
than just reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see it as like kind of this continuum of like just reacting and not fully understanding over here, and then mindfulness where you're present with the emotions, you're trying to understand them, and then over here is what he's wanting me to do, and it's to actively seek after it. And I'm going to do it a few more times. Hopefully, I mean, I don't want to have any more of these attacks, but when they come on, because they have been coming on a lot lately, I'm hoping, and based on what he's told me, it's going to lessen the power that it has over me, because now I'm in control. Like I'm putting my conscious mind back in control
Mm-hmm.
of this experience that I'm so afraid of.
And it's
And
just kind
so,
of like a curiosity, isn't it? Or like
yeah,
you're curious about what's happening, and you're going into experience it. You're allowing the feeling to come and sort of stay present with it
yeah,
and
because what I
sense
have been
into it.
doing in the past is push it away
Mm-hmm.
and like try and hide from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes like 30 minutes of trying to hide from it, hide from it, and then it finally does still just bowl me over. So I got through the process a lot more quickly last night. And so rather than it taking 2 hours, the whole process took about 30 minutes.
Oh,
And
so
I was able to
you
go
did
back to
stay
sleep.
with it. What happened? I'm just curious. What was your experience?
I mean, it was just as terrible as it always is, but the difference was the duration.
Hmm.
And actually, now that I think of it, I usually wake up after those experiences completely exhausted and really, really depressed. But I didn't this morning. So I see that as progress.
Hmm.
But anyway, this is not a therapy session.
No, but
It
it's
often
about
is, but
it's
not.
we're talking about what we're looking at is self-empathy. This is
Yeah,
self-empathy. You're
yeah,
sensing
exactly.
into yourself, and it's the same thing. If I would have been there with you, listening to you, I would have been empathizing with you. So it's like we're looking at what is self how does the self-empathy work, sensing into your experience, being present with it, not detaching, not judging it, but staying present with it yourself, and then also with someone else there
Yeah, and
too.
I think the interesting thing about the way that you have taught me to empathize, like the way that you do it, it helps the other person to self-empathize
Hmm.
because you're just non-judgmentally reflecting back what's happening and what you're seeing, what you're noticing. And so that kind of becomes part of the self-talk of the
Hmm.
other individual. And I think that's a beautiful process because it really is not just about you understanding, you as the empathizer and understanding the other person. It's also training them to know how to understand themselves as well.
And there's another part too, is there's the presence of someone. So you've got the anxiety. I see it as again that landscape. Here's the landscape is, the anxiety can be a Mount Everest, right, within the landscape, and then you can get kind of overwhelmed with it. But if someone is reflecting what you're saying, it's sort of their presence is within the landscape too.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that if they're reflecting back, saying, "Oh, I'm hearing you have a Mount Everest of anxiety and fears, and it's cutting deep into you, and you're feeling terrified about what this," it's that part of your consciousness is in the relationship, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and then by even the mirroring, there's something about mirroring someone, the act of mirroring, it seems, that it creates a sense of connection and safety. So that it adds to that space, to the landscape, to that inner landscape. So you're not just the Mount Everest hasn't sort of taken over. So I think that's the other benefit of empathy is it's creating a sense of connection, and connection creates a sense of like safety too.
And maybe grounding as well.
Oxytocin, grounding, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I say grounding is often when I get into those really negative spirals, I feel like almost the analogy of what you were sharing about the way you feel when you're empathizing, but you're like out in space. But when I'm having these negative internal experiences, it's like there's no ground underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's another person there, it's like you are here, you are part of this, your feet are on the ground and you're part of this world, you're part of relationships around you as well. And I think that's a really beautiful
Mm-hmm.
part of it as
Yeah,
well.
so that's a grounding. Yeah, I can see your feet are on the ground, so you have somewhere to stand. Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I
Anyways,
think this is. I mean, this is an important part of the landscape of empathy. It's like about these real world experiences. Because I don't know if I ever talked about my empathy fear dance or okay, so I used to like to really dance, kind of
oh really? I didn't know that.
freestyle dance, and my body's
That's
getting kind of
cool.
old. But just I used to do contact improv too. I don't know if you're familiar with contact improv, which I think is
Sorry, is it a type of dance?
yeah, it's a type of dance, but you're always in contact with your partner or partners, and so when you can kind of connect, let's say, and you can feel where do you want to go next, and there's sort of a motion
Hmm.
You just follow the flow of where the connection wants to go. So it's like an intuitive, and you're rolling, tumbling, but it's just highly, you're in physical contact. So there's a huge amount of like oxytocin involved in it. So if you look that up, it's a really great contact improv. They have some good videos on
That's
it.
super interesting.
But the type of dance I was doing was more freestyle, just you just move however you want. You can roll, tumble, you can people do contact or whatever. And so I was in the dance, and it was like I was dancing, and I could feel sort of this anxiety in my core, just like and I thought, okay, I'm gonna do exactly what that person, your therapist said, stay with it and try to expand it. I
Hmm.
thought it was exactly so. It was like exactly that model. I thought, okay, I'm gonna do that. But I was being able to dance with my whole, my move with my whole body, and I was sort of feeling as okay, I want to get close to the fear. I want to get close to this anxiety, and I want to just like if you zoom in to a picture, you start seeing the individual pixels of the picture.
Hmm.
And I thought, I want to get as close to it that I can see the individual pixels of the anxiety. And so I was moving, and um, and then like metaphors started coming. I thought, oh, this is like thousands of little knives, cutting into me. And I kind of kept moving, getting closer to it. And, I had other different insights. It's also kind of fits in with focusing, where you're staying with the felt experience and seeing what comes into the space. And, and then I got close to it, and I got close to it, and it disappeared. It just like, it's almost like
Because it wasn't real.
it was real. I was
It
literally,
was
I
real,
was
but what I'm saying is it didn't have any foundation to it. So it's like, I guess I can't be here anymore, right?
right. I mean, and that fear is kind of, you don't want to go somewhere else. I can feel a pull. Like I don't want to face my fear. I want to get away from the fear. So there's that pull too to get away with it. But I did
Well,
sort of
and that
stick.
gives it power when you try and get away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it keeps it suppressed, and keeps it alive. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it keeps it alive and have that power. So I did get close to it, and with the knives, and then it kind of just disappeared. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's gone. But then within a few seconds, I felt another fear. It was like I said, oh, there's another one. And it was like kind of a heaviness, because I feel like, oh, my brain is kind of tight, constricted. I said, okay, there's another one. Gonna go check that one out. And I in the dance, moving around, and yeah, and I thought, okay, it feels like fog. And I started, sort of naming what it looked like. What is it? How can I get closer to it? And I danced for a while, kind of I can't remember all the intricacies of how getting close to it, but I did get close to it, and it sort of disappeared like that. But then I noticed that within a few seconds, I was noticing another version of the fear. Like the fear takes, I just realized fear has almost like unlimited manifestations. And so in the dance, I kept, dancing, trying to find the fears within myself and try to get
Great.
close to it. And there was one that, you're dancing with different people. And there was this one woman I would dance with a little bit, and then she always would leave, so it felt a little bit like rejection. And I said, okay, and there's a fear of sort of that rejection, right? And then I said, okay, I'm gonna stay close. Somehow we just kind of got together. We're sort of starting to dance, and I stayed. I said, okay, I'm gonna just stay with the fear, and I can feel kind of in my gut sort of this anxiety kind of welling up, and I just kind of stayed with it and always stayed focused on in with the presence of her, but also of the fear. And I kind of faced it, danced through it, and she stayed very present somehow. That we had a good dance, out of it. And I think I did this for like an hour or more. And afterwards, it's like I felt like I was sort of like, some kind of a Buddhist bliss. I
Hmm.
just felt like I was sort of like floating in this warm, blissful feeling. And like after the dance, I have anxiety because in terms of talking to people, I don't know what to say to them. I don't know. What are we going to talk about? What's the conversation? I'm not real good at just, chit chat kind of stuff like that. And usually I feel some anxiety about that. But I just was like, felt so calm, so
Hmm.
peaceful. I didn't feel anxious about not talking to people. It was just like there's just this spaciousness. So anyway, it was one of these peak experiences of just being present. And I've always wanted to, even after I thought, what we really need is a fear empathy circle where you're always facing, sensing fear, not only your fear, but other people's fear. And so it
Let's do
totally,
it.
yeah, well, great. Yeah.
I love that idea. I mean, we talked about anxieties a couple of weeks ago when we did that empathy circle. And I think that that was really helpful to just talk about what it felt like. But I think going deeper into it
Yeah.
would be powerful.
Okay, we'll set some times. Give me some times that work for you.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm curious if you could explain to me why you felt so present specifically during that dance. Like, first of all, why was there fear in the first place
I
during
think
the
I have
dance?
I
But then
have a low
also,
level anxiety in general in life.
okay.
It's just like
And so it's just always going to kind of be there.
yeah, it's always kind of there. Yeah, and it has different forms. It takes it has it's like a little in the core here. It's sort of a heaviness in the head of constriction and focus, and it has just a lot of different manifestations. So I think it's just for some reason that one time I decided to just really face it, and it was like beautiful. It was, and I want to say too, what we're talking about, I think in terms of your studies, I mean, this is the important stuff, right? It's like how does all that theory, all that stuff fit into the real lived experience?
Yeah, because
It seems to
otherwise, why
me,
are we even talking about it?
yeah. And how
We
does
get,
how does it help give insights and move the core of who we are?
yeah. And I think if we don't tap into the philosophical, we do miss a lot of the depth of what it is we're experiencing. For example, like you were saying, like most people who come into an empathy circle, they just kind of experience it on a
Hmm.
surface level. But you and a few other people have been able to get down and deeper at like looking at what is the experience of the whole group?
Hmm.
Why are we experiencing it the way we are? So I think there's a lot of value to talking about the philosophical as long as we always take, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm like kind of choking on something today. It's not the food, it's my own self. Um, but always bringing it back to the practical,
Yeah,
because that's the reason that we're even getting into the philosophical is for the sake of understanding the practical and
yeah,
informing the practical.
yeah. I think if your paper research, if it can bring that into the lived experience like that, I think it just brings the work alive too.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the book that we'll eventually write. And I say eventually because it might be 5 years from now.
Hmm.
But that story that you just told is it's such a good story and it needs to be told.
Yeah, it was just like a peak experience, and I have a longing to, if you like, it would be great to do a fear empathy circle, and I think it could be something that could catch on because facing your fears is it's a healthy thing to do, I think, and if you can do it in a environment with others, I think it could be a real growth promoting something that could really catch on, if you, having the framework for doing that other people can then use that as a practice to.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's really something there with like bringing in the dance aspect of it as well, or some sort of embodied experience rather
Yeah,
than talk.
yeah.
Um, I just think that, yeah, embodied experiences are so powerful. And maybe that's why in that moment you were able to focus on it, you were able to face it because your body was doing something proactive. And a lot of times with anxiety, it's this is what my therapist was just explaining to me. And it's an analogy that makes perfect sense to me. So, back hundreds and thousands of years ago, when you felt that immediate feeling of anxiety, that's like an alarm going off that there's something wrong, it usually was because there's something wrong. Like there's a wolf outside your
Mm-hmm.
house and you have to go get your bow and arrow or whatever. You have to go out and kill the wolf. And so your body is doing something to address the problem. Whereas nowadays, there's not that imminent threat. And so we just kind of sit with this low level of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of like humming along, and it's always at the periphery, and we never address it head on. And so that's why bringing it back to that embodied experience, I think that could be so powerful to help people address their fears as if there's some sort of physical thing that they're doing in the process as well.
Yeah, it could be start with the empathy circle and then you take it into the some mirroring exercises like
Yeah.
for acting, one of the core acting practice is the mirroring where you sit with someone else and then you move and they move and sort of follow you and then you shift and you follow them and you kind of shift back and forth who's sort of leading and then you stop taking you know conscious control and then people kind of move in sort of this harmonic experience where they're kind of reading each other so
Oh, I love it so much. We almost had an experiment where we were going to do that with BYU dance camps
mm,
this summer. So we did have an intervention that was like focused on character development. And one of the things that I really wanted to have in there was a partner dance. And then we were going to look at how it increases people's empathy. Unfortunately, because it was multiple parts, like, different stakeholders involved, we weren't able to do that part of it. But um, Garrett Carden, the neuroscientist at BYU, he has, you've seen his thing that he does with art, where they're looking at art together and it sparks conversation. And so, like, I'm helping him with two papers on some of those projects. But then what we are hoping to do in the future is something similar to that as well
mm,
with different media.
mm.
So with dance, with music, so it could be anything that is an embodied experience where you're not just talking about it, that I think could be really beneficial for helping people to empathize with each other and also understand themselves better.
Yeah, and
Um,
how does empathy fit into those contexts? Like, where is
yeah,
the, yeah. I mean,
yeah. So I'm
dancers,
curious about that.
musicians, I've done interviews with, musicians, and they just talk about reading the energy, being empathic to the holistic empathy, right? You're in a band, there's a holistic empathy of the group, and you're sensing that, and you're from split second, so yeah, split second, interaction with the others. Yeah.
And I love that feeling. I'm a pianist, and so I've accompanied a lot of different groups and individuals, and I've played with a lot of musicians. And my favorite moment is that breath that people
Hmm.
take, and it's like, okay, we're all on the same page, and we're going to do this right now. And you don't even have to say a word, and everybody knows what's happening. It's such it's an unparalleled experience that I can't get enough of it. Every single time that it happens, it's just it gives me the warm fuzzies. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah. Well,
I've got to go because I have an appointment. But this is good stuff, and I always want to keep talking.
yeah, I can talk. I can go for days. I like
Yeah.
this much better than writing.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and
like,
that's what I was thinking. The fact that you have to share that story in a book, it's here, and it's going to be in the AI transcript. And so it's going to be part of, I really think that it will be so easy to pull together all of this information and write a book about it, because as we're talking about it, it is being written.
mhm.
And so
Yeah,
it's gonna simplify the
yeah.
process.
We've got the recordings. We've got transcripts. We've got two AI reports on it, so it's well
Yeah.
documented.
So it's
And
gonna really facilitate the process.
let me know about the fear circle. I had been wanting to do that and just
Okay.
haven't had the time, or somebody who's as equally as enthusiastic as about it.
I love fear. I'm just gonna start telling myself that. I'm very enthusiastic about fear. As of Friday when I talked to my therapist
Mhm.
about it. I'm pretending to be enthusiastic about fear. It still is scary, but why not? Why not
Yeah.
just approach it head on?
And I think it's core because, like, authoritarianism is based on fear, right? That
Mhm.
people are afraid to speak up, and it kind of permeates our whole society, and I think shuts down democracy and
Mm,
democratic. So I think it's as well as everything that does, to your body. So
yeah.
yeah, it probably need probably at least an hour and a half sometime for a circle,
Okay.
ideally two.
Um, yeah, I'm just wondering who else. Maybe Greg would be interested. I did talk to him last week, by the way. It was
Anything new?
awesome. It was on Thursday. And he's also interested in maybe sometime in the future doing a study on the empathy circle. Um, and for both of us, it's just a matter of bandwidth.
Hmm. And
You know,
he's got there's a whole fellows. I saw there's a whole group there that it'd be good to get them involved in an empathy circle, I was
that
thinking.
would, yeah. I'm sorry. I saw that you emailed about that, but it was like after I had talked to him, and I was like,
Mm.
I actually don't know any of the other people in his group. And so I didn't feel comfortable like reaching out at that point, but let me just see. He also invited me to join this other research group where they have like weekly meetings and talk about empathy research.
Hmm. Hmm.
So hang on, I'm just going to
Maybe
try.
he'd be interested in the fear circle and others.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Yeah.
always send
So
out a in the newsletter asking people. So there's always can find, it's kind of the shotgun approach versus having specific people. It'd be good to have a group that's consistent. Maybe
yeah.
5 people, maybe.
Yeah. I think it would be really fun. And I think it could be very therapeutic. Um, I think it's
Yeah.
all around a good thing.
Okay. Well, let me know dates whenever you get.
Okay. I mean, honestly, if it could be at the same time as our normal meeting, and then just replace one of the meetings, that's a time that
Oh,
I
I
know I
see.
have set aside.
Okay.
Um, so I'm starting classes next week,
Hmm.
and so it's always as you've seen. Each time I get into a new semester, I have to kind of figure out what's the new normal and see
Okay.
what my bandwidth is. So I don't feel like I can commit to a specific day or time or number of meetings about that yet,
Mhm.
just because I don't know how intense the classes are going to
So
be.
what do we do next week then?
Let's just still meet next week
Same
and
time?
continue talking about
Hmm.
the projects and
Okay.
the training and everything. So
Okay.
okay, I'll see you
See you
then.
next week. Bye.
Okay, bye.